I'm gonna say something, and I don't think it should be that controversial. A lot of modern worship music follows trends from somewhere, either within itself, like the microcosm or sort of vacuum of what's happening in modern worship music, or I think maybe more often than not from other types of music, genres, pop music, or R&B music, rock music, Coldplay, whatever. I feel like I name drop Coldplay in every video, and if I was shooting this video 10 or 15 years ago, I probably would have been name dropping, oh, here's my dog. And probably would have been name dropping U2 in every single video. Anyways, the statement I don't think should be controversial, but maybe is that oftentimes modern worship music rides on the back of, or follows along, or builds upon trends. So as I lead Sunday Sounds, one of the things that I make a very intentional effort to do is try to notice these trends, or even try to get out ahead of them whenever possible. Notice something happening in some other part of the music world, and then try and draw a line to how it might end up impacting modern worship music. So today's video is all about one of those specific trends and how we turned it into a sound library. But first, I want to talk about how I kind of trace this trend through, because there's some awesome music behind the scenes that I think will then help you understand a bit more of why these sounds exist. For me, it started in 2021. I saw this music video on YouTube. Actually, it was more of a short film from this artist called Dijon, or Dijon. It's spelled like Dijon mustard, but I've always said it Dijon. I don't know. Anyways, he did this sort of quasi-live performance of an album of his that released that same year called Absolutely. And it was this like living room set with the whole band just kind of nestled around, very raw, kind of noisy, and it's awesome. The thing I noticed the most was this long-haired, sort of skinny kid-looking guitarist singing a lot of background vocals, but had this very interesting guitar tone. Here, I'll show you. Okay, this is the Absolutely record, and I noticed these tones, these guitar tones.
There you go again, head low, putting on a show again. It's the holidays, how come it always ends this way? You can't take the pressure off you just to put it on me. Talking to your friends on the phone.
So this is the studio album. In the live version of the album, this guitar is even more prominent. It's this baritone guitar, and it's pretty dry, some chorusing or some flanging, and it has this really weird grittiness at times. So I was like, who is this guitarist? I have to know. And I did some research and eventually found out it's this guy named Michael Gordon, who goes by the artist name Mk.gee. And in 2024, Mk.gee released his first full-length solo album, which is called Two Star and the Dream Police. And it is an incredible sort of lo-fi indie bedroom pop record. And it was so striking to me because I had never heard anything quite like it. Let's see. It's moody and ambient. Lots of drum programming. But for me, it's still all about the guitars.
If you got something, go hide it.
It's retro, Phil Collins, The Police, but this deep baritone sort of thing. And Mk.gee has been on quite a run in the last couple of years. Not only has he continued to produce for Dijon, but he's also made an appearance as a writer and producer on the latest Bon Iver album on a couple of songs, and you can very clearly hear the Mk.gee sound on a couple of the tunes on that record, which is also a fantastic record. And then perhaps the pinnacle of his career so far is co-producing and appearing on the most recent Justin Bieber records, which are called Swag and Swag 2. And then most recently, when Justin Bieber appeared at Coachella, Mk.gee is in the background playing that baritone guitar at the top of that sort of mountainy, sparse stage thing that Justin Bieber had going on. Okay, anyways. This is the trend, or rather, really it's just this guy, this artist, Mk.gee, Michael Gordon, has been changing a lot of perceptions about what guitar might look like. And most of the time, when a new kind of guitar thing happens or a new kind of keyboard thing happens, the internet pretty quickly goes to work figuring out how something was done. What guitar pedal were they using? What amp or vintage synthesizer or plug-in were they using to get this sound? Oftentimes the artists will reveal that information themselves, or the producers. But Mk.gee's tone, this guitar tone that's predominant, the defining thing in terms of the instrumentation that makes Mk.gee sound like Mk.gee, whether he's making his own music or producing for someone else. For a long time, it was a bit more shrouded in mystery, and then the internet found one rig run-through video that Mk.gee did at a show back, I think maybe 4 years ago now, and it got really weird. This is not a typical guitar rig for any genre. He does some insane things. The order he puts his effects in is backwards and wrong. He uses a Midi pickup on his guitar and then runs it through an old Roland Midi guitar synthesizer, gets some crazy tones from that. He uses the specific reverb pedal called the Ranger reverb, and it has this strange character where it only applies reverb at very high volumes. It's a gated reverb pedal. But the thing that really blew people's minds was he was using no amps at all. There was still something amplifying the signal. It's just something that, at least that I'm aware of, no one had ever purposefully made a defining part of their sound before. He used something called the Tascam Portastudio 424. This is from the company Tascam. Portastudio is the name of the thing, and 424 is the model. And what this is, or was rather, back in the day, was a relatively cutting edge, but sort of intended to be more cost-effective tape recording setup, where you could record multiple channels and inputs and preamps, EQ, and then record it straight to tape, and then multi-track over the top of that tape. The thing is, back in the day when this technology was new, nobody thought it sounded amazing. In fact, the preamps had a pretty harsh breakup if they were pushed, so you had to be very careful not to push the preamps too hard to avoid that sort of harsh and brittle tone. But the interesting thing is that harshness, that brittleness that everybody back in the day thought was the weakness of the Portastudio, Mk.gee is now purposely running those preamps right on the edge of that harsh sort of digital distortion kind of thing. It's a very brittle tone, and this is actually what he's using as a substitute for a more traditional amplifier. So everything in his rig, the MIDI stuff and the electric guitar stuff, all ends up running through this Tascam Portastudio. And so when the internet figured this out, it took a little while, and then everybody freaked out. Bunch of people went and bought these on the used market. The prices on Reverb and other places went through the roof. And it wasn't long after that guitar pedal manufacturers started releasing their own kind of in-the-box versions of this Portastudio effect. The most prominent being the JHS 424 gain stage, which I bought because I'm a fanboy. I think it's an awesome sound, and I wanted to be able to bring it to my own guitar rig. Anyways, all of this exposition aside, this is a trend that's been building for a while. So I've been tracking it since 2021, and it's the combination of this sort of baritone guitar, this vintage preamp, flanger, chorus, this sort of bedroom 80s aesthetic, and then Bon Iver and Justin Bieber. So I felt like it was only a matter of time before this sort of Portastudio sound started showing up in worship music, and surprise, I was right. Last August, Abby Gamboa and Eoden King released a collaboration album called Throwing Paint, and the first song is called Privilege. Check it out.
As surely as the sun will rise, the promise of the morning.
So to me, this is pretty much a one-to-one, clearly inspired by what was happening with Mk.gee, translating that to a modern worship context. I've seen some bands like House Fires play around with these kinds of tones. I've seen more baritone guitars on stage in the last year and a half than I think I have in the rest of my life. And I love it. It's awesome. It's an incredible sound. Here's the second song. So this is that digital sort of Portastudio distortion thing applied to a very low tuned guitar, a baritone. So anyways, if you haven't checked out that record, it is fantastic front to back. I really enjoy it. I think you will enjoy it too. And if this trend is new to you, it's a great place to start, and then you can work your way back through some of those other references that I mentioned. Once I became aware and shared with the team what was happening with this whole Portastudio thing, we knew that we had to get our hands on one, not to explore this sort of guitar sound. We're really not trying to make Sunday Keys sound like a guitar across all different use cases, but we wanted to explore what we could do with that Portastudio and its very unique preamp, and push a bunch of, vintage synthesizers and organic samples through it to try and capture that sort of gritty, muddy, fuzzy weirdness that the Portastudio does like nothing else. So we were able to get our hands on not one of the recreations, an actual original Portastudio, and then sample a ton of vintage synths and vocals and some guitars in interesting ways, even a piano, through the Portastudio to get our latest Ultimate exclusive sound library. This is the Tape 424 Ultimate exclusive. And if you're watching this video now and you have an Ultimate or All Access Sunday Keys license, it's already available to you. You can go download it. If you don't already have an Ultimate or All Access license, you can either purchase one new or upgrade a standard license, and then you'll immediately get access to all of these sounds. So I've got Sunday Keys open. Let me just show you what it looked like for us to translate this classic preamp sound into more of a worship keyboard space. So the quickest way to find these sounds, other than just sorting by recently added, is just search for 424 after you've downloaded them in the sound library. And there's a bunch of different options here. So let's just work our way down. So there's that verby quality that makes it sound, sort of retro and 80s, and then that fuzzy gnarliness from the Portastudio. You can't get that with most overdrive effects. You definitely can't get it with modern digital preamps, and you can't get it with tube amps really either. It's just these sort of vintage, cheap console preamps that can do this sort of thing. Here's a Juno. Nice little attack there, and then it settles into that warm. And Monwheel gives you a bit more brightness. Here's a synth bass. The way that this saturates the sound is just very unique, and we found that it did interesting things to lots of different sound sources. Here's guitar stabs. So cool. Here's a pluck. Interesting grittiness and noise in the tail. Mello Squares. So even for softer sound sources, it still adds a very interesting, it is warm, but it's kind of a fuzzy, hazy darkness that you don't get from just a low-pass filter applied to any old sound. I was really happy with how not just the greedy, aggressive stuff turned out, but the more mellow things too. Oh, by the way, what you're hearing is just the direct output from the Sunday Keys app. That red dot in the corner means we're recording the screen from the iPad. This is an M1 iPad Pro, and it's perfectly capable of running Sunday Keys live. Been doing it for years, and all we do is record the screen and then just export the audio, like separate out the audio from the screen capture later. We don't do any post-processing, we just drop it into the video and upload it to YouTube. So what you're hearing here is what you get with this Ultimate exclusive. Next, this is just the noise floor of the Portastudio itself, which we grabbed kind of cranked up. So this is like, fully maxed gain with no signal. But it was this really cool noise. It wasn't just like pure white noise. It was, again, fuzzy is a word I keep using a lot. And the idea here is as you play more notes, you get these layers of noise. Sometimes they'll phase in really interesting ways. But you can limit this or play with specifics by using effects or limiting the voice count so you're only getting the amount of noise that you want. We'll come back to this one in a minute. Here's the organ pad. We performed a piano through the Portastudio and played some looping octaves. Broke down in a really interesting way. Retro keys. Just a bit of noise in the tail there that's really nice without being something that's going to build up to too much. A couple more guitar-based sound sources, but mangled up in interesting ways. Here's Rhodes guitar. Tone knob rolled back on the guitar. And then everything saturated through the preamp. Here's a saw. Lastly, here's a vocal. So those are the individual sounds, all available in the latest Ultimate exclusive. We release a new Ultimate exclusive library every quarter to everyone with an active Ultimate or All Access license, and this is where we put our more experimental stuff, the stuff that hopefully inspires you to push into a new direction and still complements the core Sunday Keys library. So what I'd love to do now is take just a minute. Let's just grab a few sounds here. I'm going to start with this noise ambience that I talked about before. Go back here, bring this up again. Let's do this filtered bass. And the awesome thing about every Ultimate exclusive is that there's always this ability for them to blend well together without a ton of effort. And oftentimes I'll find that I stack several of these kinds of ingredients together, and then I'll end up pulling in one or two more fundamental sort of core elements from the Sunday Keys core library, and I get really cool results. So I've got a reverse guitar, guitar stabs, filtered bass, some ambience. Let's grab a pad also. Let's see, maybe this bowed pad. Oh, you know what I'm going to do instead is grab these Mello Squares because it's quite responsive and playable. Okay, so now here's what I get just out of the box. Okay, so you can hear this noise, right, is very prominent. And I really just want a subtle amount of that. And then I also really, I think, just want it to be on the attack. So what I'm gonna do is let it fade in, and then I'm gonna let it fade out all the way down to nothing over the maximum decay time. And then just in case I happen to release quickly, I'll let it fade out over the release also. I'm gonna keep the voice count at 4, and then let's play around with the EQ a touch. I'm just gonna soften it here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take a bit of this reverb and I'm going to balance it out. And then lastly, I'm going to introduce sort of a quasi-randomness. I'm going to add a tremolo instance, very slow, not stereo, and then I'm going to bring the depth up to 100. This means the audio via the tremolo is going to come in and out over 0.08 hertz in time. So very slowly, it's going to come in, and then there's going to be moments where it's not audible at all. And then it comes back in. Okay. So now I'm going to take these elements and background them. Like so. Okay, now I'm going to take something that's pretty delicate and contrast it. So I'm going to go to my favorite, which is Una Corda Felt. And let's just start with... pretty cool. Next, I'm going to layer in one more sort of safer choice to bring this into something I feel like I could really use at my church. And that's just a nice soft pad. So I'm going to bring these layers here. And I'm going to let these pan. So we're going to go still slow, but pretty deep and stereo. This is going to help spread out the guitars from each other. Bass if I need it to lift, or just bring up the mod wheel to get more brightness out of everything. So that's maybe how I would start building something with some of these 424 ingredients. It's definitely an interesting challenge to place these in the mix. A challenge not in a way that means that it's difficult, it just takes some intentionality, some purposefulness, and you might have to deploy some strategies like I showed you here with the tremolo that you may not with just a vanilla sort of warm pad. So if you are an Ultimate or All Access license holder, go grab these sounds now, leave a comment and let us know which you use first at your church. Again, we release a new one every quarter, and anytime you purchase an Ultimate or All Access license, you also get access to all of the previous Ultimate exclusives. We've been releasing these every quarter for more than 2 years now, so there's a ton of back catalog content that you get immediate access to, all definitely worth exploring. Okay, so that's it. That's a little bit about trends. Dijon, Mk.gee, Justin Bieber, somehow, Abby Gamboa, Aiden King, and the latest Sunday Keys Ultimate exclusive, Tape 424. Leave a comment with the trends that you think are coming next. I'll go check out your recommendations if you drop them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.